Hi, Michelle and Lauren. Marnie and I are really excited to have you on our show today. We love that we connected with both of you, and I've really been enjoying listening to your fun and cozy conversations on your podcast. And the topic we're going to dive into today is very applicable because we've had a cold streak in Minnesota. And as we record this episode, we're on day 2 of homeschooling pretty much, I think, all kids, and at least in the Minneapolis Twin Cities, if not the entire state. So I'm having PTSD of the early stages of the pandemic, all 5 of us at home, and, the kitchen's a mess and everyone's in and out and noisy, and hopefully they'll keep quiet for this interview today. And we just love meeting like-minded people who are so real and vulnerable and hilarious to inspire others to find their art of living well. So before we dive into the interview, we'd love for each of you to share what's your non-negotiable to start every day.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for having us.
Yeah. I want to say before you give your non-negotiable, I just want to say I'm sorry that you guys are, living in this crazy snowstorm and your kids are all homeschooling. But for us Chicagoans right now, we're kind of jealous of your snow because
so jealous.
Like Seattle here. It hasn't stopped raining and we get little bursts of sun. And I just can't help but wish that we had just maybe not all the snow you have, but if we could take some of it, we would gladly.
Yes, totally.
And I'm looking at like a foot of snow outside right now. It's white. It looks like a giant marshmallow. I was thinking that this morning.
Sincerely jealous of you. I mean, it's kind of a buzz killer. Winter has been very mild, and not once have we had to dig out our cars. And that's kind of like a rite of passage here in Chicago. You know how it goes. So yeah, I mean, you guys are lucky. Besides the PTSD you're going through, Stephanie, my apologies, my condolences there. But you know what? We are here. At least we this is a perfect timing for us to come on and talk to you about how to thrive during this time that you're going through. I've been watching Al Roker every morning talk about your weather conditions. So I know what you guys are going through.
I was just going to say a beautiful winter walk outside in this weather is actually amazing.
Yes.
It's so peaceful.
It's peaceful. That's exactly the word I was going to say, Marnie. It's so peaceful.
And that was actually going to be what I was going to say about what my non-negotiable was when I wake up in the morning. If I can just lean into that for a second, I usually wake up at 6-ish in the morning specifically to have the peaceful moment to set the tone for the rest of my day. And that looks like some form of a caffeinated beverage of some form, whether it's coffee or matcha, and whatever book I'm reading for 15, 20 minutes. And that's my morning non-negotiable. And I worship it. Thank you.
I love that. The quiet time is, it's so underrated almost,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we don't take enough time to find that quiet time. And on the questionnaire you shared with us, one of them was, what is your favorite spot in the city that you live in? I'm in Chicago, and I can think of a dozen places that if I can drop everything right now, I would go to and enjoy part of my day. But the truth of the matter is, unlike Michelle, I used to get up in the morning too, bright and early, and do my thing, have my quiet time. I have a 7.5-month-old, and those days are dead at the moment. And it's so hard.
Yes.
Sorry,
my non-negotiable is my Whole Foods instant coffee with my oat milk poured into it when I sit with my baby. That is I just need that at the time. But Michelle was saying, my quiet time, my favorite spot in the city is anywhere that I have alone time. It's literally if I get to go to the grocery, if I'm in line at the DMV, I am happy because it's just time alone and I need it and it makes me feel good. And yeah, but Michelle, I'm jealous of your mornings. I'm working on getting up earlier, ladies, because it is a priority to have that time back, even if it's a half an hour before Luna wakes up. So I'm working on my own non-negotiable, as a matter of fact, which you asking that has given me a little bit more of a push in that direction.
That's great, Lauren. And my youngest is 16, and then I have 2 older ones. So I feel so far away from what you're describing, but yet I remember it so well. And it's a hard time. It's hard. It's hard to find that alone time and that quiet time. And I don't think I really got that until my kids were much older. So good for you for trying at this point in your life when you have a 7-month-old? Because
at 40, that's weird. But you know what? That's the life choice I made.
Well, anyway, we would love to hear in a nutshell your story and how you guys decided to create the Cozy Project and how you're able to embrace your Chicago winters and inspire others to do the same. And I know you said you're not really having a winter the way you would want this year, but assuming that you did, or in your mind, if you had that Chicago winter, how are you embracing it?
Lauren and I started our blog almost 10 years ago, which I can't believe. And it's called The Sister Project. And it is a space that has evolved into this cozy lifestyle platform where our main focus is to inspire people to embrace cozy, mindful well-being. And what that means really is like, for one thing, leaning into the seasons. Like Lauren and I were saying earlier, we are obsessed with the 4 seasons, not because, well, for me personally, it's something to look forward to. You know, I always feel ready for that next season. But the seasons is one example of how you feel most present when you're connected to whatever the month in the year is providing you with. And our goal as inspirers of this cozy lifestyle is to help people, like, honestly, just slow down and make space for other things that enrich their well-being.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, we, like Michelle mentioned, we're obsessed with the seasons. We grew up in a household that really celebrated fall, especially. So we're like basic bitches when it comes to like fall. You grab your cozy stuff and get your pumpkin spice latte. we are those people. But at the same time, we really talk a lot about the seasons of life as well, because even the older that we've gotten, we've realized that those seasons are so much more, have such a big impact on our lives. Seasons of grief. We've lost our mom to dementia. In fact, the same type of dementia that Bruce Willis was diagnosed with FTD, that's what our mom died of. So we went through a season of adapting to having a new mom, to losing her to dementia, like while she's still alive, and then really losing her to dementia, like death. And then we went through that whole loss and grieving process, that season of our life. We've gone through seasons of infertility. I'm going through seasons of new motherhood. And so what we really try to bring together are both the real seasons of nature and seasons of life, and how you can lean into both of those together to stay mindful, to not lose your shit when you feel like you might, and maybe get outside and enjoy this winter wonderland that you might be having, maybe when you're feeling like really overwhelmed with work or with a relationship, and kind of piggyback those things off of one another so that you thrive and not just survive.
Oh gosh, so much of what you said really like encapsulates what we're trying to do on this podcast with helping people find their art of living well, but in a very simple way. Like I think a lot of times we wish the season away, especially those that live in winter.
Absolutely.
In winter wonderland. And that's pretty much where I've lived. Like all the cities I've lived in have been cold, including Chicago. And we're always like, oh, I just can't wait for January to be finished, or February. I can't wait for spring. But like you said, embrace the seasons. I like that. The seasons and the seasons of your life, because there is so much good that you can find in the day-to-day when you just stop, take a moment, be more present, and appreciate what you have. And, there are people out there that never get to experience seasons because they live in a warm tropical climate.
Right. Which is also lovely.
You're really you're highlighting all the amazing things about fall and winter and what you can do that are honestly like either very inexpensive or free.
Yes. Yes.
To have more joy in your day.
Yes. Yeah. And there's no point in running from something. I mean, here's the deal. If you live in a climate you don't like, and if you are able to, you do have the freedom to move to a place that is more conducive with your lifestyle and with your needs. Maybe if they're your health needs or your mental health needs. So I know I have friends that have literally left Chicago because winters just don't work for them mentally anymore. But if that's not the case for you, it might just be time to learn how to embrace it. You don't have to love it, but maybe you can take little bits and pieces from it so that your day doesn't suck so bad. And you're not sitting here looking at your calendar, flipping months, being like, oh, finally it's April. And to be honest with you, in Chicago, April and March aren't always that great anyway. So you're just literally waiting for June through September. And if you're going to do that, you might as well move.
Well, you know what I like to say? It's all about the gear, right? like
Yes.
right gear.
Yes.
Like if it's snowing out yesterday, I put on my snow pants, I put on the neck gaiter, I put on the coat. I call it my dog walking coat that goes down to my ankles. And I was warm. It's blowing around me, but I was warm outside and I was enjoying it. And it was, now if I had to do that for 6 months, I might not be so happy. I'm fortunate enough that I can get away to some sunshine here and there throughout winter. And that helps a lot.
Exactly.
But that's such an important aspect to it. Like Lauren and I say all the time, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. And, you nail it. And that's just one aspect of it, making sure that you're prepared. So when you step outside in the cold weather, it's not like you're this harsh, miserable feeling. It's like, wow, this is actually really nice. And oh my God, all of a sudden, look how lovely it is. And the way the cold air feels and all of this. And then next thing you know, your mindset really does sort of shift into leaning into that. We have friends that haven't enjoyed the winter, that didn't leave. They stayed here and have learned over time and through lots of the things that we share that, there's something to be said for being more inward during the colder months. And while you are inside sort of hibernating and taking a slower pace at life, you're making some incredible pot of soup that your house smell amazing. Or maybe you have a fireplace that you don't only light when you have company over, but you light it for yourself when you're sitting on your couch to read a book at 3:30 in the afternoon, because it just feels good.
Yeah. It's like, and it's free. I mean, it's not free. Soup does cost money, and so does some logs, but it's not, it's not like you're renting a chalet in Aspen to get your hygge on. You could do this in the comfort of your own homes. And there's a lot of Scandinavian lifestyle terms and ways of life that Michelle and I lean into. Hygge is a very key word. It's trending. It has been for years. I think it went into the Webster Dictionary in 2019. But hygge, is the art of cozy, and frislutsliv is a Norwegian term, which is outdoor living, getting that fresh air, no matter the climate. I mean, and just the other day, there's this Australian TikToker whose video went viral because he was showing in Norway and in some other Scandinavian countries, the baby trams, like their strollers, women and parents leave their babies outside in very cold weather at times, all different types of weather. But most of us question, really in that cold of weather? And they leave the babies outside in their strollers because they believe that their naps are better. It helps with their immune system and it helps with their independence. And so these countries are raising children from a young age to be adapted to this type of climate and to be outdoors and to embrace it. And there's a lot that we can learn from our neighbors across the pond over there.
I mean, they're literally the happiest countries in the world.
Well, right. That's a big takeaway there.
Which I think is so amazing. And, Marnie and I living in Minnesota, I'm not from here, but there's a lot of Scandinavian descent here. And that's why when we moved here 12 years ago from Chicago, I was blown away by the ice fishing and how much Minnesotans embrace the outdoors, very similarly to what you're saying.
Absolutely.
There were actually, I'm literally just remembering this right now. I haven't thought about it in years. A neighbor up the street, the first winter we were here, that built an ice house, little igloo.
Yeah.
And the couple literally with, some brick sized snow blocks. And we went in there several nights and we would have on a Saturday night, we would go in there and have a drink and we would be all dressed up in our full snow gear.
Amazing.
It was so cool. I haven't thought about it literally in 10 years because they moved. But I just think, to your point, that's really cool. And bringing in that insight from what you shared going on in Scandinavia. And we wanted to talk about the hygge. And I think one of the things that I learned when I was just doing research for this conversation is that Finland is one of the happiest places in the world, along with lots of other Scandinavian countries. And why do you think that is? And it's funny. I actually spent, I think it was 5 months in my 20s. I was living in Europe and I traveled to Finland, and I was there I think I was in Sweden and then Finland for a 6-month period. And it was during winter. So it was January through the end of June. And I remember saying I loved Sweden, and it was in January. It was freezing cold, but the people were so friendly.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of remembering back to that, a time that I haven't really thought about in a while until this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we know some of the secrets.
Well, I mean, number one, I mean, they're They're masters of embracing, well, certainly this winter season of life, which is a very long period of time in those parts of the world.
And it's very dark.
Yeah. That's what blows me away is the darkness.
Yeah.
Candles is a popular commodity out there. They sell the most candles. Like
they burn the most.
They burn the most candles out of anyone. Also, I think that there's like this deep-rooted connectedness in those countries. People are, engaging in small hygge is this, it's sort of an intimate lifestyle thing. Hygge looks a lot like alone time, and it also looks like time in intimate settings with your closest people. There's small gatherings centered around a favorite dish, or maybe you're having
board games
night or something like that. There's those like simple little things that we get away from here in the US, like aside from working our asses off and trying to do it all, you forget to like rein in on the important things that really matter. And that's what those Scandinavian folks really kind of master.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're so happy.
And I actually think winter forces you to do some of those things. Like just as you were talking about that, I'm thinking about how, I don't know if you guys know the game euchre, but we get together with friends in the winter and have these like euchre tournaments, and it's just warm and cozy and fun, and we're at someone's house and we're not going out, on a Saturday night to a fancy dinner somewhere. It's very chill.
And I believe the word is like if you say that's very like hygge of you, it's actually like hyglig. Like that's, I don't know how to, I don't have a
wait, what?
Like hyglig. It's HYGGLIG. It's like the adjective of it. And that would be like, that's what that's very hyglig of you to grab a couple friends of yours, have them over for a cozy night in and play a game. I think that Michelle made a very good point. We are on a like hamster wheel of getting things done, being overwhelmed with work. And then, if you have a family or whatever it is you might be going on in life, we do sometimes forget the importance of connecting. Connection is huge, even for your well-being and for your mental health, especially if you are someone who suffers from the winter blues or seasonal affective disorder. If you get sad, like literally, it really helps to have that core circle of people who you feel cozy with, who kind of warms you up and helps that kind of, not the depression would dissipate, but maybe it'll help you get through the winter feeling a little warmer and connected to people that help lift you up. Because it can be really, really hard. I mean, the winter can suck for a lot of people, and we are very aware of that. And we're also very aware that we're like, oh, we love the winter. It's so cool and easy, but it's actually not for a lot of people. Economically, it can be also very straining because it can cost money to get more heat. I mean, it's a lot for a lot of people. So we do recognize that, but that's why we're here to share ways to help people embrace it and get through it.
And I think something you said with community brings me back to the blue zones.
Yes.
And I don't
totally
offhand, I don't remember the Scandinavian countries having a blue zone, but I bet, if you looked into it, they're probably living a long time because of that community aspect and just connecting with other people.
Totally.
So it's so important, especially coming off of the last couple of years. And
Absolutely.
You're right. It does have a big impact on your mental health.
Definitely. And you're right about the community aspect. I don't know if Scandinavian countries fall into the blue zone, but Michelle and I are also very passionate about brain health. Because as I mentioned, our mom had dementia, and we pay attention to what those blue zones are doing. And we know what kind of food that they're eating, and community and connection is absolutely. It's instead of putting the old people away, let's get them into the community and let them be part of it and treat them like human beings, even if they are, seeming off, if you will, or suffering from some sort of cognitive decline.
Well, that's absolutely true. And I was just thinking about another thing as we were talking about the Scandinavian countries and community. Stephanie and I were talking about this earlier this morning about the sauna. And just in Minnesota right now, saunas are popping up everywhere, and community, like, I don't know if you'd call it bathing or like, the hot, the cold plunge, but it's like a thing right now. And even in northern Minnesota, there's a community sauna. And I think, again, it's like we're taking from those Scandinavian countries.
Totally.
They're doing this regularly. And I think in the winter, it does bring a sense of community when you're doing something that feels good together.
Michelle loves the sauna.
God, it's It's my favorite thing to do. I want to meet the people that are bringing those saunas to your community and bring them to our community, because I think it's something that's lacking. And I think that it would, I think that people's lives, it would enrich their lives to be able to have access to something like that. Love it. I love saunas.
And I think it's like dual purpose, because it's helping your physical health, right? With the detoxification and immunity and all that. But then the community aspect of it, like I've done these community experiences before, and it's fun. And it's something else to do aside from like going out to dinner and going to a bar or drinking. You know, it's yes.
Well, that's a shift, you know, too. And this also happened, I think the pandemic kind of springboarded this. You know, another important aspect to well-being is moving your body, like we've talked about. And one of the things that Lauren and I love to do is to do that in the woods, you know, and being able to connect to where you are or what season while you're out. And my friends, while you're walking, and my friends, like we've made a big shift where we're like, hey, instead of like going to that bar at the end of the woods that we normally would go to for a happy hour, we're like, let's take a walk instead.
Yeah.
And, you can't top that, like just that feeling of wellness, and also again, connectedness, not just to yourself and to your friend, but the nature around you. It's lovely.
And I don't think that drinking is, and I don't quote me on this, but I don't think like getting hammered is a part of hygge. I think there is a very mind, you know what I mean? I don't think we're like trying to we're not like blacking out and getting cozy. I think part of what I have enforced into my hygge lifestyle is buying a very nice wine and having a glass of it, and with my husband, and enjoying something that's different, maybe something I've never had before, type of wine, or even like a IPA, because I love a good IPA. And I've really shifted my my relationship with drinking as well, because I find that, I mean, no one wants to feel like crap the next day, especially when you have like an 8-month-old baby, plus all of the no benefits of heavy drinking. And so I find with the hygge, when you're surrounded by good company and you're doing something fun, or you're doing something really mindful, it kind of takes you away from that want or that need to feel like, oh, I should just keep pouring that wine and I'm going to feel like shit tomorrow. Instead, be like, I'm going to have this really yummy glass with this really lovely dinner I made for me and a couple friends. And tomorrow I'm going to go out for that walk. And it's kind of like a full circle. It's completely embedded into your day. It's not just like a momentary thing. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that, and I've noticed a shift even since the pandemic. Like, I think people did take a step back during the pandemic and really evaluate some of the things we're talking about. And I know, before the pandemic, I was always running to meet girlfriends to a workout class, or, at the coffee shop or whatever it was. And now it's like, oh, let's take a walk in the woods, exactly like what you're describing.
Well done.
I fully do attribute that to the pandemic forcing everyone to slow down, and everything was closed. But the habit has stayed on, and that's
good.
I love that.
Keep that one up. Walking is so good for your health.
I was like, I think you're inspiring me to go snowshoeing today, because we've got enough snow here, so might as well take advantage of it before it's gone.
Absolutely. And we're jealous. So please do.
Sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was making a pointless statement about the show, The Leftovers. Do you guys ever watch that show?
No.
I've never heard of it.
But it's like this apocalyptic series where all of a sudden people wake up the next day and like there's only like a handful of people left, and they're literally all just walking around in robes, smoking cigs, walking around the neighborhood. That's what the pandemic felt like, when everybody was leaving their house and walking around their neighborhoods. Remember, with just your family, stay away from the end.
So freaking weird. Oh my God.
We were like, this is the weirdest.
Oh, and I had severe anxiety. It was all bad.
So
God.
So glad to be on the other side of that and just walking in the woods with my girlfriends.
Right.
Absolutely. Less than 6 feet apart, right?
Yes. Hugging.
Practically arm in arm.
So can we change gears and talk about candles? I know you guys are very into candles, and you had them around your house growing up. And can you dive in a little bit and talk about candles with us?
Absolutely. Lauren, take it away.
Well, as we mentioned, our mom, June Massarella, she was a huge candle hoarder. Okay, listen, June would go to TJ Maxx or Home Goods, and she would buy out all of the Yankee candles. And we would get home and like in our armoire, then we would steal them and whatnot. So we grew up with just candles burning 24/7, like sometimes in the middle of the night. And it was kind of terrifying, but then, someone get yelled at.
Don't do that at home, folks. Blow out your candles.
Yep. So we grew up with a very seasonal route of our candle burning as well. June was very good with like, okay, hard stop, fall, let's move into winter and whatnot. So we became one with that, and growing up and having our own homes, we started to have the same type of candle behavior and practice. And then leaning into this cozy hygge lifestyle, we realized that like, what are we doing here? If we're going to create any sort of product for the Sister Project, it has to be a candle, because that's what we know well. Our noses, although mine might be fake and I might have had rhinoplasty, I still have my sense of smell. So a botched nose job, but I still can tell our nose knows what a good candle smells like. Yeah. So Michelle and I decided to partner up with a local candle maker here in a little town called Downers Grove in Illinois, Jennifer Larkin of the Paper Peony. And we hooked up with her and we're like, this is exactly what we wanted to do. So we have very seasonally inspired candles that could be burned all year round. I mean, I know some people like go with the Fraser fir during the summer, which to me, that's like a cardinal sin, but you do you. But, there's some people like myself that do the hard stops for each scent. So you can do whatever you want. But so far, Michelle and I have a cozy, the line is called Cozy AF, and the winter scent is Fraser fir, moss, and Palo Santo. It smells so freaking good. It's like a winter wonderland.
I love Palo Santo.
Oh my God.
I love it.
People love it. They say they love to burn that candle at night. That's yeah.
And they're fragrant. They've got a good hot throw. So when you burn it, cold throw and a hot throw, which, did you know that cold throw is what you smell when you smell an unlit candle. And then the hot throw is what you smell when you are burning your candle. So
sometimes they have
little industry lingo. Yeah. Sometimes they've. And then our spring scent, which is gardenia, lilac, and lemon. It's beautiful. And then we are coming out with a summer scent, which is going to be very beachy, very tropical. So we're thinking like coconut, mango. I think that's where we're kind of topping off with that one. And then our fall scent, again, is as basic as it can be. It is apple, pumpkin, and spice, and then like a little dash of cinnamon. Yeah. So and they're in beautiful vessels, and they took off, and it's a great. It really leans into our lifestyle because, like I mentioned, and we are candle burners morning to night. I don't know about you ladies. Do you guys burn all day long?
Are you guys
Are you burning? Are you burning or what?
Well, no, I'm not all day long.
I have my candle burning right now.
Nice.
And this is a local woman also.
But I love that like just that white plain candle. Marnie, do you burn candles?
I do, but I also am a big essential oil person.
Love it.
So I do both, I would say, but I am very into finding candles that are not toxic.
And these are not.
Because there are so many out there that are toxic.
Yeah, there are. And I did read, okay, I will say this though, I'm being in the industry now. I'm seeing what's out there. And there was this guy that was like, he was like, listen, you're going to be okay. If it's a Glade you're going to be fine. He's like, there's other stuff we need to be worrying about right now. He's like, but our candles are clean. They're soy and coconut based wax, which is really lovely. And they've got a wooden wick, that was a huge part of our decision because the wooden wick crackles. And that gives you that kind of like, if you don't have a fireplace, it gives you that vibe. But I also want to mention another kind of candle, which we don't sell or produce, but we're looking into this idea. When you go to these other countries, these more Scandinavian countries, they are burning straight up either beeswax candles, like pillar candles, or just straight up like ivory pillar candles, non-scented. And they burn through these like professionals. Okay. And I took on this new candle behavior about 2 years ago, and it has changed my everyday, especially the dark mornings and when it gets dark at 4 p.m. I light that bitch up at like, honestly, the minute I wake up, and it stays lit until I go to bed. And it is just, like when you're looking around your house and you look out towards the window and it's gloomy and it's gross. Well, you have a little flame right there. And it is like fairy godmother just like clinked you with a little dash of cozy. And it's just a game changer.
Okay, Lauren, it sounds like you do have a non-negotiable then. That's your non-negotiable is lighting
There
a
it is.
candle.
It is. And it's true. Like I'm literally holding my baby, like chugging like coffee and lighting my candles. That is, thank you. You just pointed it out. I guess that is my non-negotiable every single morning. And sometimes in the summer I rock it too, because why not?
So I have a question logistically about that.
Yeah.
So is your candle like, are you walking around with it then?
Oh no, I'm not Charles Dickens. I am
so I'm envisioning you having the candle in your hand and the baby in your hand. And you're going, to your kitchen to make your coffee.
I love you. I love you for asking this. Yes, I live by fire. No, it is. I have two, and one's in a hurricane. And at the moment, since she's not walking or playing with things yet, they are freestanding. So it is a pillar candle, like on a little, really pretty dish. And there's one near the window, and then there's one on my kitchen table. I put them very strategically in spaces that I spend most of my time, so that they are illuminating up that space. But now that you say it, Marnie, I don't know. I might, live by candlelight.
And are you turning on the light? Like if you're waking up and it's dark, are you just going by candlelight, or are you turning on the light?
No, there's barely any lights. And that's a funny, Michelle, why don't you tell them a backstory about our family growing up?
We joke that we were raised by candlelight. Like
that's amazing.
We really didn't have lights on.
Like my parents would go back and forth about the light being too dim. My dad wanted it on. He couldn't see. My mom had it off. We had candles burning. And so we had friends that would come over like when we were in high school, and they were like, God, your house is like kind of dark. And we're like, yeah, this is how we live here. We don't use we don't use a lot of lights. And I personally loathe overhead lighting. What you see here is the skylight is what that light is above me. But Michelle and I think our whole family, there's a bunch of us, lighting is a very particular thing to me. And that plays a big role in the lifestyle as well. Candlelight is the way to live a hygge cozy lifestyle. Well, and candlelight and also dim lit light, like the cozy, like think about it. You're not cozy in that fluorescent light that's sucking the energy and life out of you. You bring that shit down and light a couple candles, and all of a sudden you're cozy.
Well, and it's so romantic, right? Like it just adds like romance to the setting, I guess.
Absolutely, Marnie.
It adds a moodiness.
It's moody. Yeah. It adds a mood.
It's mood lighting.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's amazing.
Well, maybe I shouldn't get so upset with my daughter because she was burning candles and taking mine, and then she left, would leave them on all night, and then it tipped over and it made a mess on the carpet. So that's okay. It's because she's adopting.
She's just trying. She's trying. Yes.
Hygge, actually, she's just cozy AF, and she just wants the damn candles. She gets it.
She does get it.
Well, I'm excited to order some of your candles. They sound amazing. And I love the wooden wicks. Like when I see candles with those wooden wicks, I like them so much better, actually.
So do I. And I think the day that this episode drops, when you guys are listening, is when your new spring candle is going to be available for purchase.
You are March 15th right. We restock on this day. So come get your candles.
Everyone, don't break their website right away, but get out there and order your candles.
Break it.
I have a pro tip I want to share with you guys. Next holiday season, you guys have Trader Joe's by you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So next holiday season, this is for the listeners as well. When you are in Trader Joe's and they have like that little home section and where you get like the, all the stuff, they have seasonal white pillar candles. They come out right before Thanksgiving. Hoard them because pillar candles are expensive. These are like $3.99. Hoard them, get as many as you can. And I'm not kidding, like get like 20 and have them throughout the entire winter. And you can even give them as gifts, buy a sweet little hurricane for someone or a nice little plate and give it as like a little hostess gift, a nice cozy hostess gift. But it will change your holiday and winter season. I promise.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll have to do a reminder of that when it gets a little closer.
And they sell out. That's why I say hoard them, because they're gone by Christmas and then they're gone.
Yeah,
I can believe it.
Trader Joe's with their carts like mad people when they hear those candles.
They should.
Especially thanks to you guys getting this message out to the world, right?
No, thanks to Trader Joe's.
So let's dive in a little bit and talk about your podcast, where you have this like very intimate, sisterhood and relationship conversation about all things. And you're just very raw and real. And like you talked about already, infertility with you and your mom, with, her brain health issues and things like that. So can you just share a little bit about the podcast? And I have to say, I love the episodes where you talk about like your favorite, like the books that you're reading and the shows that you're watching and the movies, because that's where I learn. Sometimes I feel like I live in a bubble about the new shows. So I started watching White Lotus after you guys were talking about it. You had probably already been through all the episodes. Anyway, it's just fun. So
I just
I do. I finished it.
Okay, Stephanie, you are in a bubble if that's the first time you've heard White Lotus. I have to tell you, because
well, it was several months. It wasn't like recently.
That show is all over the place, and like every other newspaper article was talking about it.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you finally got into the White Lotus.
I did. It was last fall. Yes.
Good. Michelle, go ahead, kick it off.
Yeah, the Cozy Conversations, our podcast, we launched this in 2020, like during the pandemic. We had been blogging forever, and we're like, it's time. We need to take, Lauren and I, we would have these incredible phone conversations, like, you know,
like what you hear us talking about.
Yeah, and we were like, we need to take this to the airwaves. So we basically just spun our day-to-day sisterly banter into a conversational style podcast where we, you know, highlight, you're always going to get a little bit of cozy, mindful well-being because that's our thing. But we share personal stories. We are funny as fuck. You know, we talk about current events and pop culture. And I think that my favorite conversations are the ones where we are sharing with each other what we're reading and listening to and watching as well.
It's fun.
How is it working with your sister? Like for each of you? Because I can tell you guys are really close.
Oh, it's good. It's good. We both have our strengths and our weaknesses. We know what our forces are in. I'm a Scorpio, so Michelle knows like when and if I might be having a day because I can't hide it. You can feel it. And so she knows when I need something, like when I might need a little space. Michelle is one of those people where if I say something that I think maybe I pissed her off and I've got to apologize, or which doesn't happen often, or if we get into it a little bit, she is so good at just, that's it. She lets it go. Where I hold on to things a little bit longer. I got to talk it out a little bit more. And we have such a good relationship that we're able to see each other from that perspective and work with each other instead of being like, whatever, get over it. She's patient with me. And I'm also very grateful that she is easygoing and lets things go. Michelle thrives in the learning space. She gets like off on needing to learn how to do something. Like she started to edit our podcast. We finally found an editor, but she does a lot of the technical admin stuff. And then I do more of like the production of the podcast, finding what topics we're going to talk about. I do a little bit of the research and
incredible
that
content creation. She's an idea person. She spews out some pretty insane things that we didn't know was going to hit either of us. And I have to say, Lauren is saying that I'm so patient. Lauren is also patient, and Lauren has also been an incredible. I'm the older sister. But Lauren has been an incredible teacher and mentor to me in a space where, like, for example, Lauren has TV and experience. I never did. So she has some journalism background. I didn't have that. Lauren has a writing background. Lauren has helped me not only as a business partner, but as a person sort of grow and evolve into who I am today. And I think together I've been on a lot of teams. I played on soccer teams my entire life. I've worked in business settings. Those women were my teammates. I've been very fortunate. This is by far the most fulfilling, fun working partnership I've ever been in my entire life.
Ditto. And Michelle, you've helped me a lot too.
Cool.
And you guys are both married, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Both married, both have kids, and we figure out how to make it work. And we joke that sometimes we come up with really good ideas after a long period of time of doing something one way. For example, I used to go to Michelle's, I'd pack up the baby and all of her things and go to Michelle's and podcast because we had fun being together. That's why I did it, because we loved being in the same space. But then life really happened and I was like, this is freaking hard. And then we're like, let's just do it from across Zoom. And we don't skip a beat. It's still there. And it didn't tamper with the repertoire that we have with one another. So the good news is when I decide to move my family to another place in the country, Michelle and I can do what we're doing.
My daughter will be pissed because her baby cousin is gone, but Lauren and I will be fine.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's almost strengthened your relationship,
Yeah.
it just, and you have such good awareness of, like you said, each other's strengths. And I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
I feel really lucky. I don't, it's not every day that you find yourself in a partnership like this with a person that also happens to be your sister. It's really special. Like, I do not take it for granted.
But Marnie, listen, I know you're trying, listen, we are sisters too. So, and we've got two other sisters. So there's like, sometimes like, there's still that sisterhood exists.
I get it. I don't have a sister. I always wanted a sister, but I have two daughters and I see their relationship. So I admire what you guys are doing. I think it's amazing. And I think that you'll remember this time in your life when you're working together forever.
Forever, for sure. Yeah. Hopefully we are always working together. That's the goal here.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering if you can leave our listeners with some maybe simple or practical tips that they could start adding some coziness into their lives today if they wanted to.
Well, I think my main goal is always slowing down, as I said before, like slowing down and making space for whatever it is that fills you up and puts you at peace, brings you into a present space. And it's simple. And we've covered it, it's the simplest things. That cup of coffee in the morning, don't just make that cup of coffee and drink it.
And chug it. Yes. Sit, have a moment.
Like sit in that moment and like really appreciate it, light that candle and look out the window and maybe your dead mom will fly by in the form of a cardinal and visit you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean,
I love you.
Wait, I just have to stop you for 1 second. My grandmother died last May, and I always, whenever I see the red cardinal out my window, I always think that's her. So it's really strange that you just said that.
No, it's a wonderful thing. And that also to me is us leaning into like the seasons of life. And listen, loss and grief is completely a part of being alive, and no one's escaping that portion of it, or what we're all going to experience at the end. We're all going in the same direction. But if you can take a moment to look and see things like that, not let that beautiful cardinal pass by without you getting a glimpse of it, and take a moment and maybe remember somebody. And maybe that day or in a week's time, do something that person reminded you, do something that reminds you of that person. Maybe it's a tradition or a recipe they made. And to piggyback off of that, what your listeners can do right now, and it's so easy. And I was just at a celebration of life over the weekend, and in the speech, the son was talking about call that person or text that person. And he was specifically talking about the older people in our lives, because there's a lot of comfort there, especially, if there's someone like our dad, he's in Florida right now. And I have this urge to want to call him and connect with him. I also have the urge to call my mom. It's the weirdest thing. I have the strangest urge to like literally pick up my phone and call her to tell her about Luna. And I realize, she's no longer here. And it's a reminder for me to stay connected, whether it's a good friend I haven't talked to, because life gets busy. And that's the thing, you guys, is that we're all going to die one day. And then some of us are going to look back and be like, fuck, I should have called her or him, or I should have made time for coffee. Who was too busy to have a phone call conversation? It blows my mind that we are living in a society that we're too busy to connect with other humans that mean so much to us. And that would be my biggest takeaway today, is call or email or text or write a letter to someone that you are dying to connect with.
That is such great advice. It's simple, but you're right. We get in the hamster wheel and the busyness of life, and we have friends and family all over the country, and
we lose touch.
I just had a couple of, and you never know. Life is precious, but we are all going to go someday, and you don't know when. There's no guarantees.
Like I haven't seen one of my bridesmaids.
Take advantage of the moment.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't seen one of my bridesmaids in 10 years, and it's ridiculous. And I call her out on it too. Sometimes I'm like, girl, we are not that. Listen, you are not the president. Like, let's meet and visit. And like we got to stay connected. It's very important. And it's an effort. And if you put in that little effort, that's when you get like the cozy feeling on the inside. And that's when you walk away with your day feeling like, oh, maybe I didn't get all that shit on my to-do list done, but I connected with my best friend, and that trumps everything.
And I just want to piggyback off of that with my, it's hard to make time, as you're saying, because of the busyness of life. And sometimes there is an effort that you need to try to find that time. For example, grocery shopping for me. I'm just going to use yesterday as an example. It was really gross outside and I wanted to make this pasta dish, and I also needed to work and I had a ton to do. And I'm like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to delegate this. I am going to put my Instacart order together, and I'm going to treat myself, and I'm going to say, you know what, we're going to take that off your list. And I created space for two things, like the most pleasurable cooking experience, because I just removed the whole process of schlepping and driving and rain and what have you. I removed that from the situation. So I was just in an amazing, it was like a pleasant moment. And while my groceries were being picked up, that's when I lit my fire. And that's when I picked up my book for 20 minutes. And that's it. I think the effort to create more space, whether it is to call a friend or to take something off your list in an effort to spend some time nurturing yourself in however way you choose.
I think that's great advice. And I never think about Instacart. I should more.
I don't either, Marnie, but Michelle's
I do like going to the grocery store.
So
though. There's something relaxing to me about actually going grocery shopping.
Telling you, same here.
I like to go to Trader Joe's. I like the vibe there. I like the people there. I like to go there and look at the products and buy the stuff. I don't like to go to the store where I have to get the same things. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm going to automate that. That's coming from Instacart, and I'll get my feed that shopping need with the Trader Joe's. Yeah. Just kind of switch it up a little.
Yeah. Love those ideas. So where can people find you, Michelle and Lauren, and the podcast and buy the candles and all the things?
Sure. So we are, our website is thesisterprojectblog.com. And from there, you will be able to find us everywhere. So you'll see a little tab at the top that says the Cozy Shop. And from there, you'll be able to find all of our candles. To the right of that, you'll see our podcast. Our podcast is called Cozy Conversations with the Sister Project. I like to say that it sounds PG. It's not. So listener, what is it? What is it? Like experience, or what is that explicit advisory?
Yeah.
And then from there, we are streamable everywhere. So you'll see our little faces pop up when you search Cozy Conversations with the Sister Project. And then our social media, you will find us at the Sister Proj, PROJ, and also at Cozy Convos with TSP. And both of those, one is for our podcast and the other one is really a more in-depth look at our everyday lives and how we do live in a cozy, mindful space.
Awesome. We'll link all that up in the show notes too.
Thank you very much.
And Lauren and Michelle, as we wrap up this conversation, one thing we'd like to ask all of our guests is, what does the art of living well mean to you?
The art of living, what does that mean to me? I think that there's balance in the art of living. I think you want to put the good stuff in your body, but eat the donuts too. I find that the art of living is not being so strict that you are so rigid and not imbibing a little bit in the fun, good stuff, or the naughty stuff some people might think when we think about donuts. God, I love those. But I also think the art of living there is a huge aspect of connection for me. I really work hard on maintaining strong friendships and relationships in my life. And I really think that is what life is all about, is the connections we make with our fellow humans, that and seeing the world. For me, traveling is a huge part, and I want my daughter to also see the world. So if I can combine all three of those things into one part of my living, that's what it would look like.
Lovely.
I agree.
Yeah, right.
Agreed.
Like encapsulates all the things that we love.
The art of living for me, I mean, first and foremost is sleep. Good sleep. That's something that is like a number one. I was just telling my husband last night, I said, you know what? We're not like winning at everything. Might not be winning at anything, but
no, you are.
But our sleep, we are winning in the sleep department. I just think it's the foundation of good health, and it sets the tone for the rest of what goes on throughout the day. Also, a lot like Lauren, I say it all the time, girl time is a necessity. My tribe of women, and I have different clusters. I have my mom tribe. I have my high school tribe. I have all of these different, and they are just an integral part of my experience. It's from, supporting me in the good times and the bad, and laughing, and just being there. And then the last thing, just creating a safe, peaceful space for my family. I would say those are the three, just having living in the most joyful home we can as much as possible, and sleep well and hang out with my ladies.
Well, that sounds like you are both living very well right now. Love all that insight that you shared. We love asking that question, and beautiful. You guys gave beautiful responses. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it's all simple. Well, it's all free, as Stephanie likes to say often on the podcast. And it's, it just takes a little mindfulness to refocus, right?
Absolutely. And just kind of notice the little things. It's the little things that sometimes there's a lot of comparison out there. There's a lot of social media noise and bullshit. And I think if you can just be okay with the beautiful space around you, even if it's not perfect, and even if you don't look like that millionaire on social media, that's okay. And it's freaking awesome. And just enjoy the space you're in.
Well, it's like the space that you're in and making it cozy can help reframe your mindset when you start to go down that, maybe darker path, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So
The essence of hygge. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I love the word hygge. It's like,
Hygge.
And I always
Although
want to call it hygge.
Yeah. That's how
Hygge.
it's spelled.
Yep.
Lauren and I were shy early on, and we hijacked that word. We didn't correct people. Now we're like, it's hygge.
Yeah.
Although someone from that proper part of the world might be like, actually, it's
hygge.
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 Yeah.
I like how you have the chin
The
sweep in
hygge.
that. The hygge.
This was awesome, you guys. We love
This was
talking
so
about
much
this.
fun.
Yeah.
It was great.
And talking to people who are actually living in that kind of climate right now, it like I mentioned, it makes me jealous, and I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to
We're
get
happy
outside
here
later
too.
this afternoon. So
Good.
Absolutely.
And
And
I'll
maybe
light a
the
candle.
shovel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shovel, light a candle, come back, have some mulled wine or
Yes.
not.
Now you're
Yeah.
talking. Or a bourbon Manhattan. Or a
That
bourbon
sounds good.
Manhattan.
Yum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having the Sister Project on, you guys. It was a pleasure speaking with both of you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a great day.
have a great one.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.